The first thing I noticed wasn't the giant red sold sign planted in my front yard. It was the silence. Usually when I pulled into the driveway after a 10-hour shift at the warehouse, I'd hear my old wind chime clinking against the porch. The neighborhood kids would be riding their bikes, and my dog Max would be scratching at the front window waiting for me. That afternoon everything felt wrong. Then I saw it. A bright white sign with bold red letters. Sold. My heart nearly stopped. What? I slammed my truck into park and jumped out. There was no for sale sign before today. No realtor had ever called me. No one had asked permission to put anything on my property. I stared at the sign like it had appeared by magic. This has to be some kind of joke. A man in a polo shirt walked across my lawn carrying a clipboard. There you are, he said with a cheerful smile. Congratulations. Closing is tomorrow morning. I blinked. Closing? He looked confused. Yes. The sale of the property. My property? His smile disappeared. You are Mr. Daniel Carter? I've lived here for 12 years. The man checked his paperwork 3 times before his face turned pale. Oh, that single word told me everything. Someone had made a terrible mistake. Within minutes he was apologizing over and over. Apparently, another house on the next street had the exact same house number, but on West Maple Avenue. Mine was East Maple Avenue. The moving company had already received instructions. The photographer had uploaded pictures of my living room. The title company had been calling the wrong homeowner. And somehow, no one had noticed. The realtor immediately pulled the sign out of my lawn. I'm so sorry, he kept saying. I wanted to be angry. Instead I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because after working all day lifting 50-pound boxes, my brain simply refused to believe this was happening. While the realtor rushed to fix the paperwork, I sat on my porch with Max resting his head on my knee. That's when my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, wandered over. I saw the sign, she said softly. I almost had a heart attack. So did I. She smiled. You know, for a minute I thought you'd finally decided to move. I looked around at my tiny house. The paint was fading. The porch creaked. The roof needed replacing within a few years. Inside, the kitchen cabinets were older than I was. The bathroom was barely big enough to turn around in. It certainly wasn't anyone's dream home. I've thought about it, I admitted. Mrs. Jenkins nodded toward the expensive houses across the highway. They're beautiful. They are. But I've noticed something. What? The people inside keep changing. I looked across the road. She was right. Every few years another family arrived with shiny SUVs and moving trucks. New landscaping. New furniture. New decorations. Then they disappeared. But you've stayed, she continued. So have you. She smiled. We've watched children grow up. We've shared Christmas dinners. You helped me shovel snow after my surgery. You fixed my mailbox. And every summer, half the neighborhood gathers in your backyard for burgers. I hadn't really thought about it. To me it was just an ordinary little house. But to everyone else, it was where birthdays happened, where my daughter learned to ride a bicycle, where my wife and I planted the maple tree in memory of her father, where neighbors knocked without texting first, where people always knew they could borrow a ladder or a cup of sugar. The realtor came back 20 minutes later. Everything's fixed, he said. Again, I'm terribly sorry. He looked embarrassed. You know, he added, when we listed the other house, buyers kept saying they loved this neighborhood because everyone seemed so friendly. Mrs. Jenkins laughed. That's because this isn't just a neighborhood. It's a family. That evening I grilled hamburgers. Not because it was a special occasion, because it was Tuesday. Within an hour, 3 neighbors wandered over. Someone brought potato salad. Someone else brought lemonade. The kids chased Max around the yard until sunset. Nobody cared that my patio furniture didn't match. Nobody noticed the peeling paint on the fence. Nobody complained that the house was only 1,300 square feet. They were too busy laughing. Later that night I stood alone on the porch. The empty spot where the sold sign had stood was just a patch of flattened grass. For a few frightening minutes earlier that day, I'd imagined losing everything. Not the walls. Not the roof. The life inside them. That's when I realized something. People spend years chasing bigger homes. higher ceilings, designer kitchens, luxury finishes, smart appliances. But none of those things create memories. Love doesn't care about granite countertops. Friendship doesn't require vaulted ceilings. Family traditions don't need a 3-car garage. Home isn't measured in square footage. It's measured in shared meals, late-night conversations, birthday candles, front porch laughs, helping hands, and people who know your name. As the porch light flickered on, Max curled up beside me, and I looked at my little house with brand new eyes. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't luxurious. But every scratch on the floor told a story. Every nail in the wall had once held a family picture. Every room echoed with years of laughter. That's when I smiled, because I finally understood something I'd been too busy to notice. You don't need a luxury home to feel rich. You just need a place where love always finds its way back. If you'd like, I can also adapt this into a more suspenseful, emotional, or viral YouTube storytelling style, while keeping it around 800 words.